It's all in Spanish. It's all in one day.
Oh, it's on one day.
Yep.
Alright, you're ready? Attention good? Yeah. Somos. Somos. Welcome everybody, bienvenidos. We're going to get started for our all school facilities meeting. Vamos a empezar nuestra reunión de toda la escuela sobre instalaciones. By far one of the most well-attended meetings of the year. De hecho, es uno de las reuniones más asistidos de este año. I am going to start us off with a community builder. Vamos a empezar en construir un poquito de comunidad. So I thought about it and I thought, well, we're talking about facilities. We're talking about moving. We're talking about picking up, going, or maybe staying. At the end of the day, we're still also talking about welcoming in a new community next year because we get to grow every year. Entonces estaba pensando, estamos hablando de instalaciones, del traslado, no traslado. Sin embargo, vamos a dar la bienvenida a nuevos estudiantes que hacemos cada año. So I thought about, like, there's lots of moving things, right? Lots of stuff that moves. Hay cosas que mueven mucho. But there are certain things that are immovable, and that is the magic that is New School, right? Y hay ciertas cosas que no se mueven, y eso es la magia de New School. And so obviously I'm biased, right? Founding member of the leadership team. I get to spend my time with two amazing co-founders and other members of the leadership team, and one who isn't here. Obviamente, juego un poco de favoritismo porque tengo el honor de compartir tiempo con dos cofundadores muy especiales y otros miembros del equipo de liderazgo. But I also know that there are other members here that I consider to be the magic of New School. So I have three amazing teachers right here. Ms. Kim, Ms. Chloe, and Ms. Lauren, Maestra Hannah. And this week has been all kinds of stuff happening, and I really reflected and realized that the magic of New School is in its people. And not just people, staff, but like people, our community, right? So Ms. Geraldine, who like is a brand new parent, like she comes in and she's like, hey girl, what's up? It's like, but I just met you like 2 months ago, right? But we already have that connection. And so thinking about the magic that is New School, maybe getting up, moving around, finding somebody that you don't know, and talking about what to you is magic at New School. So give me 1 second and I'll translate in Spanish. Entonces lo que estaba diciendo es que para mí la magia de la nueva escuela es, aparte de las personas que están acá arriba, es también nuestros maestros supremamente especiales y también toda la comunidad que nos alrededor. Entonces, por ejemplo, una nueva mamá que apenas 2 meses llegó a esta escuela, pero ya me está saludando como si me conociera toda la vida. Entonces, el reto de ahora es de que todos se ponen de pie, buscan a alguien que no conoces, somebody you don't know, y habla con ellos acerca de, para ti, qué es la magia de la nueva escuela. So somebody you don't know, and talk about what is the magic of New School for you. Go. Melt. Can I cheat and say,
You're trying to steal my job. It's like you're so good at the recruitment tool.
it's unfair because I know everyone, right?
I knew you.
I'm not sure that everyone.
Yeah, right? The usual. Who do we not know?
The only thing I had to do, I'm going to go grab my sparkling water so that I can actually just.
I got a second. Yeah, that's mom. Yeah.
I feel like I need to. Make up some time.
Yeah?
Should we? Are you gonna ask me?
Somos! Somos! All right. ¿Alguien quiere compartir lo que hablaron? Does anybody want to share what they talked about? I can intently stare down people. Yes, John.
So I met Mr. Trevor, who I should have known, actually. But my kids have spoken very highly of him. And so initially I said he was magic. And yeah, and but then he came back with a better one. He's like, oh, partnership is magic. And he talked about the magic of partnership. Yeah, I totally agree.
John dice que conoció a Mr. Trevor por primera vez y le dijo a Mr. Trevor que él es magia y Mr. Trevor respondió con que la colaboración que tenemos es magia. Anybody else? Yes.
It's my first year being part of the community and I'm very impressed with the leadership from Ryan and Emily. And I think it permeates the school as a whole. I find it to be a very creative and positive, inspirational atmosphere. And just great environment. I like it.
David dice de que para él la magia es el liderazgo y el clima tan positivo que tenemos a través de toda la escuela. Gaby?
Yo no conocí a Nick, nos gusta conocerla, pues conmigo por tiempo. Y la magia para nosotros los que compartimos son los maestros. Los maestros nos comenzamos mucho la se preocupan por su educación.
So Gabi says that she just met Nick, both founding families, and that for both of them, what they shared was that the magic is our teachers and how much love and concern they give to all of our children. Ms. Kim.
I shared out that what I feel is the magic is sort of the way that we consistently try and think outside of the box, whether it's the things that we make integral to our classrooms that in other schools that I've taught at were the things that were getting pushed out of classrooms to the fact that we're even sitting here having this meeting right now is something that wouldn't happen at other schools, and like the level of transparency and teacher input that I'm able to have as a teacher.
Kim dice que para lo que ella compartió es la manera en cómo pensamos fuera de la caja, ya sea estrategias que usan en la clase, quizás estrategias que en otras escuelas donde ella ha trabajado no lo hacen dentro de la clase, sino fuera de la clase. El hecho de que tenemos este tipo de reunión y la transparencia y la habilidad de que los maestros tienen la habilidad de hablar y dar influencia a las decisiones. Yes.
I would say my kindergartner thinks that there's magic, that I know what
did at school today.
Just the magic
Dice que la magia de Heard, porque para él, su niño de kinder, es la magia de que el papá ya sabe de lo que ya ha sucedido en la clase porque ya lo han comunicado. All right, so I would ask that everyone keep those intentions and hold on to that magic, because oftentimes in moments of uncertainty or in moments of like just we're not sure what's going on, then sí, Natalia, tienes uno más.
Para mí la magia de New School es la comunidad de los padres,
Ajá.
porque la otra vez tuve una emergencia y buscaste la manera como mi hijo llegara a la casa.
So Natalia says that for her, the magic of New School is the parent community, because a couple months ago she had an emergency and wasn't able to pick up her son, but the community came together to make sure that he got home. So taking in mind all of those magical moments and magical things that we hold dear, hold on to them throughout the meeting, and I will now pass it on to Ryan and Emily. Going away.
Thanks, Christina.
You.
I gotta say, there's nothing more exciting than coming back from maternity leave and talking about facilities. Yeah.
You were just really jealous that I got to do it all while you were gone.
I know, I cut my maternity leave short. I thought I gotta come back.
You did.
I want in. It's like deja vu from a year ago, having a pretty similar conversation. No, but in all seriousness, I'm so excited to be back. It's wonderful. The kids are so energizing. And thank you all for being here tonight. I know now, as a mom of two, how much juggling and shuffling needs to happen to be able to make yourself available in an evening. So thank you for being here. Thank you, teachers, after a long day of teaching, for being here as well. It's all a facade. I just wore my shirt to try to, add to the facade that I've got it together, which I don't. But so tonight we are talking about facilities, and what we wanted to do is start whole group and address some of the big questions and big themes that have surfaced, either similar questions that we had last year or new questions that have surfaced over the last month or even in the last week since we got the final offer from the district. So we're going to start whole group together, and we're going to ask that you hold questions for the beginning, because we think we have a sense based on feedback from room parents and questions that have come through facilities, that kind of what are those big burning questions. And so hopefully we hit on them. We're not going to hit on everything. So to that end, there are Post-its. Please be jotting down questions. Erica is going to be kind of our moderator here, and grab questions as they come up, so that we can hit on them. And then if we don't get to every question, which we might not, we're going to be breaking up then into small groups, and we have 4 groups set up around kind of, again, the biggest themes that have emerged. And we'll get into what those are as we get into the presentation.
I think the only thing I would add to that is I think inevitably there will be more questions than time. One of the things that I would recommend is that we have talked a lot about facilities, and whether that is from last year, where, again, Emily is absolutely right, it's like deja vu all over again, to this year, we've talked a lot. All of that information is online. All of that information is in the parent portal. There are honestly, if you want to hear me speak for hours on end, go to the parent portal and look at any facilities conversation. There's lots of PowerPoints around the Prop 39 process. If you have questions around that, there's a good amount of information. And so I would always just go back to those with some of those questions. Because it is, things are complicated. There are lots of questions. There's a limited amount of time, and we hope to get through most today. But definitely want to point people back to those as well.
Great. So what matters most to us right now? First, something that is always important to us as a leadership team is that we're incredibly transparent in what our priorities are and how we're going about making decisions. It really matters to us that our community, both parents and staff, feel heard and supported, that your questions and concerns have an outlet and that we're being responsive to them, especially as we navigate a period of uncertainty. It is also really important to us that we work together as a community to understand one another's needs and how we address them. And as always, that our values undergird all of what we do. I think in particular in moments of challenge, it can be easier to let go of some values and have your emotions drive your actions. And that's when I think it's most important to stay grounded in the values that we hold so dear and that we model for children. Great. And so what are we going to do tonight? So tonight is an opportunity to confirm what those priorities are, specifically around the Prop 39 and next steps, what that timeline is, and where we go from here. And then we're going to dig in, like I said, to the big questions that have emerged. We're going to hit on a lot of them. We're going to try to be succinct so we can get through a whole bunch of questions. And then we'll break into small groups and kind of help work on those priorities together.
For people who are joining us at home and the people who will be viewing the video online, we're going to break when we get into smaller groups. It's not going to be very interesting for you because you won't be involved in the small groups. However, we have committed to making sure that the notes are taken in those small groups, and those notes are made available to anyone who wants to see them. But we'll be closing down the live stream at that point, and just to make sure that you guys know that at home.
Great. You wanna take this?
Yeah, of course. So, what are our priorities? The priorities and the email that we sent out only a week and a half ago, plus the one we sent out earlier when we got our initial offer, is that we have two priorities at this point. One, which is we're going to continue to advocate to remain at Enola Maxwell through May 1st. May 1st is the deadline in which we have to formally respond to the district's offer. At the same time, we have another track that we're taking, and that we're going to be preparing to move and co-locate with Malcolm X. Why are we doing both of those at once? We're doing both of those because we believe we have a really strong argument to make to staying here. And that argument is we believe there's space, and we believe that the disruption caused to our community and our co-located community at Malcolm X is unnecessary given that there is space here. And we have a successful co-location. Why then are we preparing to move and co-locate at Malcolm X? Because there's no assurance that we're going to be successful in our advocacy, and that we will do everything that we possibly can to advocate in the best possible way, aligned with our values. But at this point, we need to be responsible. We need to be responsible and respectful of all of the community members' choice they have to make in terms of being a part of the new school as it transitions, or possibly transitions, to a new location. So we're preparing for that now, and that's a large part of what we'll be talking about this evening. Great. We talked a little bit about this. We dig a little bit further into our priorities. What does it mean to advocate to stay here? What it really means is networking within the district, speaking to the board members, the administration, and school site leadership of those schools we may co-locate with. This school here and Malcolm X. Also networking within those in the district who have influence. And us being really attuned to who those people are, who can advocate on our behalf. And then it's coordinating with our legal team and the California Charter School Association on our formal response to the district. Those two things are similar, our formal response and our advocacy. The formal response is really around ensuring that we have the space that we need to run our program. Ensuring that the priorities of the school, as we laid out in our initial application, are met, which include not moving, yet if we have to move, ensuring that we have the space that we need in a co-location at another site.
And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Great. Perfect.
Hi, if folks are on the
do.
Google Hangout, if you can mute, that would be great.
But yeah, but we do have we also make soups and salads.
That's great. Yes, please. So that's, and then one question. We'll get to that to the larger question. Let's move on. I'm sorry.
So we're gonna start jumping into questions. Is this the one? Yeah.
No, it's the last one. Go back and just start preparing, because I think this is really important. So if we look at our priorities to move to Malcolm X, we took, many of you filled out the facilities survey, and that gave us a lot of information in terms of what are the biggest questions, concerns, and motivators for our community? And by far, it was transportation. It was about accessibility to a site, which is for a citywide school in the southern part of the city. We really feel like time well spent, energy well spent is going to be on this. It's not just for Malcolm X. I mean, we know as a growing school with almost every zip code covered in the city with the exception of Treasure Island, that transportation is a key question for us. How do you make this accessible for all in San Francisco? And so that is a big question. We think that there are lots of possible really good answers to it, and that's where we want to focus our energy. Also, in terms of collaborating with the Malcolm X's team and families to define what a successful co-location will look like. We talked about our formal response to the district. That is nuts and bolts, square footage, number of rooms, what we need. And then there's the life lived every day with another school. And this is really important in terms of if we move, making sure that our and Malcolm X's community, the culture and climate within those schools remains intact. What we all love, that magic. So doing that together is something we're going to be really focused on. And then again, coordinating with the legal team in Prop 39 response. And that includes any further legal actions we may take to ensure that we have adequate space and that the rights of our community are respected. Great. Let's move. We're going to go through this really quickly. We've done this a lot. We've talked about this quite a bit. April through May is really advocating for a placement at Noel Maxwell. We have our meeting tonight, which is part of our next steps. Then we'll have the April 26th Home and School Council meeting. That meeting all of it will focus on our plans for next year, of which a part will be our facilities. So we will come back to this conversation. However, there is much more that we need to discuss in terms of our plans for next year. What will that look and feel like for it? What is our priorities for a school? How will we continue to develop and continuously improve? And that we've done that every year. We think it's a really powerful way to set the intentions, coming back to the year and really looking at what was achieved over the course of the year, and then looking ahead and setting our intentions for the next year. We didn't want that to be subsumed with facilities, right, to get lost. So one of the reasons we're doing this tonight is so that we really can just focus on facilities and really ground ourselves in that. April 29th will be re-enrollment decisions due. You've all received your school notification. We really want to make sure that the conversations around facilities, around the plans for next year, as we're digging further and further into priorities like transportation and co-location, that people can use that to make their decisions on their re-enrollment. And then May 1st is when we respond to the district's final offer. Question is, why May 1st would you respond, but we would have to make our decisions on April 29th? By April 29th, we're going to know whether that small opportunity that we have to make a change in our final offer, whether that crack in the door is open and opening further or it's closed. So that's why, by April 29th, you will know, and we will give you a very clear answer on what we believe to be the final decision of the district.
And if there's any shift in that timeline from the district, folks that were here last year know the district came back to us saying that they needed 2 more weeks. They were going to miss the April 1st deadline. And so we said, yes, you can take 2 more weeks if that increases the probability of us being at a Noel Maxwell. They took the additional 2 weeks and they came back with a different offer. So should we learn from the district that they need more time, we'll notify community, obviously immediately, and then that would push back the whole timeline, including re-enrollment.
April and July, we'll plan co-location with Malcolm X. We're already planning and working with the leadership there around kind of listening sessions in both communities and coming together, first as staff and then as families. And then we'll also, April through July, develop and propose transportation options for our community.
Great.
For this section.
Yeah.
We're here. Oh, great. I thought you meant for the questions. We're in trouble. So now what we're going to do is these are the big questions that came out, and so we've just listed the questions up, and we'll speak to those. We'll speak to those questions.
Great. You're up first.
And if you have any that aren't covered in here, there are Post-it notes on both ends of your benches or tables and pens. Please write them down as you're thinking of them, and I'm going to come around and gather and then hand them off to these guys.
Yeah.
One of the biggest questions is why can't we stay? And I believe me, I understand what seems to be like the inherent unfairness of having settled within a building that could hold us for another year but not being able to stay. One of the things to come back to is that Prop 39 is a one-year process. You are given a one-year lease, and at the beginning of this 1 year, we were told by the district very clearly that it was going to be for 1 year. We always knew that lots can change over the course of the year, and in fact they have. And when we talk about the strength of our argument, honestly, at the beginning of this year, I wouldn't have said it was a strong argument. Over the course of the year, given lots of different factors, including our co-location upstairs and our partners upstairs, the strength of our argument has become clearer and clearer. However, we don't have control over where we stay, and we understand that it's a very complicated process in terms of allocating space across the district, and that the district has held that we will, that we will move to Malcolm X. We don't know of any other school that's going to occupy the space, and so again, that just further strengthens our argument to stay.
I'd also say the fact that we haven't gotten a more rationale from the district around their decision-making process or why they've given us an offer of Malcolm X also strengthens our argument of why we can stay when there isn't something that we can counter and there isn't kind of sound thinking behind what is currently on the table.
A large part of our advocacy is really, really pushing on this question. We believe, as a school that is taking facilities within the district, that regardless of the decision, the final decision, that we deserve rationale behind that decision. So we're pushing hard, and as we know more in terms of the reasoning behind why we can't stay, we will share it. There's lots of speculation. It's not very helpful for us to share that speculation because it's just that. But as things become more concrete, we will definitely share. Great.
Forgive me, are they required by law to tell us why?
Sorry?
Are they required by law to tell us why?
They are through so when we do our formal response, right, and we push on that, we will do that on why we relocated.
Yes or no? Are they required by law to tell us why? Are they
No.
yes or no?
Not really.
I mean, based on what you want to know, right, the answer that you want, no, they're not required by law.
They're required by law to give us an adequate facility, and adequate is defined mostly by square footage, based on our student population and the resources that our students need. Pull-out space.
Transportation and disruption, none of that is considered at all.
No. By law, they do not have to consider that.
No. So the guidelines set out for allocation of Prop 39 space take in consideration unnecessary moves. We would argue that this is an unnecessary move. So they're going to have to substantiate that. The law, like the way the law is that like all law, there is some gray in interpretation, and so they will interpret it and be more vague than we would want them to be, and that's why we can continue to push and making sure that we're advocating in both of those ways, both in terms of our networking and in terms of the legal response to push them to respond with more detail.
But I will say it is frustrating to not have a better answer to be able to provide our community. And similarly for Malcolm X, I think about Elena, the principal there, and how frustrating it must be for her to stand up to her teachers and her parents and her community and also not have a good rationale. And I do feel confident, based on conversations we had with school board members and the superintendent, that they will come back to us with a more sound answer to that first question of why. Does the district hate us? They do not.
Don't tell me you weren't thinking this. Don't tell me.
School board.
So we can expand this question, district and school board, and I do think that's an important differentiation. So when we say district, we are typically referring to Dr. Matthews, who's our new superintendent, his staff that oversees schools and teaching and learning, and the school board, who oversees Dr. Matthews, consists of 7 school board members. They have different opinions and each school board member holds a different opinion on the role that charters play in the city of San Francisco. So when I think about this question, we kind of stepped back and thought, when we started this school, we did not start this school for the sake of starting a school. We started this school
No,
because
starting a charter school.
Charter school.
We did for the sake of starting a school, not a charter school.
But we didn't start a school to make our resume look. I mean, we deeply believed that there was an absence of this type of model in public education in our city, and there was an opportunity for us to take many of the tenets that the district has put forth in their 2025 vision around personalization, around deeper learning, critical thinking, problem solving, all of this that the district cares about and they're trying to move to, and yet be able to do that in real time because we're not doing change management. And we can put these practices into action immediately, and we have more autonomy as a charter school to be able to do that. And so our mission has always been to be, one, in line with the district's vision and where they're headed, and two, be able to share out what we're learning. We have always believed that while we care deeply about our kids and our walls here, we want to have impact beyond those walls. We want to be able to be a proof point, a laboratory for learning of how these practices, whether it's inquiry, personalization, having a really diverse student body, inclusion, all the things that we're learning, and we're not getting them all right now, but what we're learning, we believe is really powerful and transferable to public education. And we have always made that commitment to the district really clear. And if you go back to the original charter law and why we even have charter schools in California, that is the intention.
Can I just quickly stepping back? The answer to that question is no. I mean, we've talked to whether it's previous or current administrations and board members, and while charters are controversial, there should be no question in this room or anyone. Are charters controversial? Yes, they are. And are we as a school controversial? There may be aspects, but no, right? They don't. What I would say is the larger political context isn't about the new school; it's about charters. And you've heard it in the media, you've read about it. But no, I don't think neither the board nor the superintendent's team hates charters or us as new school. It is controversial.
Yeah.
And part of what the controversy is exactly what we're discussing tonight, which are facilities. And it is difficult for a board, in their words, to have denied a charter, have that charter go to the state, be approved, even if it's unanimously approved, and then that charter to come back and say, now you're required to give us space. Space in their mind, they don't think they have. And that is for them really tough. It's tough. Every year when they get, there are only three state authorized charters in San Francisco asking for space, but it rubs them the wrong way. And there are things that happen in the larger environment, whether it's Betsy DeVos being named the head of Department of Education, and then a raft of controversy coming out of school choice, or if it has to do something else that just kind of rears its heads around an issue of charters, it can exacerbate that controversy, right? So I don't think anyone hates us. I do think that charters are controversial. To Emily's point, why did we do a charter? We did a charter because we saw this opportunity, and so did you, or you wouldn't be here. And yet, the only way we could make this happen, and we talked to many, inside the district, outside the district, the only way we make this happen is with the autonomy that a charter allowed us. So we pushed through, and we said we want to do this, and we want to be a net positive for the district as a whole, and we have put our head down and for the last 3 years really, really worked hard to make sure that what we've created isn't just an island of privilege for the few who get in, but really can be something that the city can benefit from. And we do that by making our curriculum accessible to all. We do that through how we look at expanding our partnership with the Exploratorium, through the hundreds of guests we have coming through here every single year. On and on, we have made good on our promise to be just that. And we will continue to do that. And again, when we talk about advocacy with the district and why we go in with our values, it is to make sure that constantly in our practice they see that happening.
I'd say one other challenge that we find in districts, there's a lot of turnover. So we worked hard to build a good relationship with Superintendent Carranza, who has since moved on to Houston, and now has moved on to be the Chancellor of New York City. We started to build a really great relationship with the Deputy Superintendent last year, who came in and spent a good amount of time here thinking about opportunities for collaboration. He has since moved on to become the Superintendent in Portland. So there's just a lot of transition. So with the new superintendent, we had the opportunity to make this argument to him, both about facilities, but more importantly about collaboration and what is our mission and what are we trying to do. And that is another piece of why we think this door is slightly open. But we hadn't had that opportunity to have time with Dr. Matthews until 2 weeks ago. So somebody asked the question here at this point last year, had they made the offer of Enola Maxwell? Yes, they had at this point in the cycle. They had made it before a final offer. So we're later in the kind of later stage than we were last year. But we also didn't have the opportunity that we had a couple weeks ago to sit down with the group and really rebuild some relationships, clarify some misunderstandings about our mission and our intent, and be able to make the argument of why staying here is so important for us. And that also, did we speak to the advocacy question of what
Right.
advocacy means?
Yeah, and so
Trying
a parent who came through, she's like, my one big question is, why aren't we storming the board, right? I've heard that's really effective. So I haven't, right? And what I would say is, here's a clear distinction. Malcolm X, not before last, was able to go before the board with a small but very meaningful group of its faculty, its parents, and supporters, and make a very directed, impassioned, intelligent plea to keep their space. The board has a duty of care for that school. It is a traditional public school, and there are charters which are district authorized. There's a duty of care there. For the district, they don't have the same duty of care for us. They're obligated to give us Prop 39 space. There's a really important distinction there. As a group of parents who are just as impassioned, just as intelligent, and just as good-willed going down to the district and telling the district what it should do. It has in the past, in an instance like us, right, really damaged relationships. Really damaged relationships. And so what we chose is, we're really happy that Malcolm X is very publicly stating, co-location is not going to work for our school in terms of the program we want to build. We are going to be doing that same advocacy, but behind the scenes, as forcefully as we possibly can and in line with our values. And I just want to tell you that because it's not about being timid. It's about really understanding the politics of the district and our individual circumstances and what's going to be effective and what's not going to be.
I'm going to build off this question, or build off that and address another question here. I think a parent had asked, this behind the scenes, are we just being passive? Are we not being aggressive enough? Again, given what Ryan said, that is our strategy. We are doing everything we can to advocate on behalf of our kids. And if we determine that it is not a legally compliant offer, we will make sure it is. And we'll do what is right and needed by our kids. And so this question here is around, if we do that and we take legal action, would that harm the relationship with the district? It likely would. But at the end of the day, again, we're going to do right by our kids and make sure we have an offer and enough space to be able to provide an excellent education for the kids that we serve. We hope it doesn't come to that, though, because that would likely harm our relationship and the efforts that we're working so hard to build with the district. Let's keep going on these questions because a lot of these actually match.
What would I like to say here? I can be very quick with this. There are a number of possible ways in which we could continue, or that we could spend next year here. And we need 2 additional classrooms. And we have spent, as a facilities group, time figuring out what those might be. We know in past that as other schools have co-located here, they've put portables on the play yard. There's additional space on the first floor that is now for administrative use. There's also, we know that there's other space in the building. What we have said with our co-location is our first priority is finding space that's not currently their space. Because then you get into the same issue as Malcolm X, which is they're running their program, and even though they may be spread out across a larger space, it still doesn't feel very good to have space taken away. So there are a number of possibilities. Time is of the essence in terms of any runway we would need to make those possibilities actionable, and that's why we continue to push. But we do believe that there are opportunities for us to remain here.
And to this question around would they support us staying here, we've had open conversations, been very transparent with them. They know it's our priority to stay here. They understand that there's ample room and it wouldn't have a negative impact on their program. They're not going to come out to the district and advocate for us to stay here, but they're not going to push and try to get us out. So we're in a good place with them. They're essentially agnostic, and as you can appreciate, as a district school, it wouldn't be fair to ask them to advocate on our behalf. Let's keep going.
We can go.
How many times will we have to go through this? We
There's-
hope not many more.
Yeah.
So if we move to Malcolm X, then we know we'll have at least one more move after that. Given the fact that we will outgrow the space at Malcolm X, even the offer we have is, as we're assessing it, would be a very tight fit. So we'd have to move again after that. If we stay here another year, I think it increases the possibility that then there is only one more move in our future as a school.
Why is that the case? Because
That is a good question.
That is the question. So, there is neither Emily and I are speaking with certainty around this, but when we look at history, right, and the experience of other charter schools, what you find is this: you find that many of them have moved around. Many of them, like us, started small and then grew. Growth is a really good thing when it comes to space. The larger you are, the harder it is to fit you into another school. And it means that the district, in its obligation to provide space, has to find you one in which you fit on your own. And so you look at all the other schools, with the exception of the newly authorized schools who are in the same position, and they're all in a stable place. All of them are only given leases to the term of their authorization, which is 5 years. And that's not because they think it's going to be pulled away after that, but you're authorized for 5 years, you're certain to be a school for 5 years, your lease is going to be 5 years. So I think that for us, we're looking at that and saying, one of the benefits that we have in all of this is we have extraordinary demand for our school. We do not see the prospect of us stagnating or even dropping in enrollment and continuing to be in a place where we can be moved around. We will be in a place very soon, I would say probably after next year, where we're just much too large to be in a co-location with another school.
And the second piece of that is Prop 39 certainly isn't fun for us. It's also not fun for the district. It's time intensive, it's expensive, it's kind of a pain in their butt. So it's actually in their best interest. They don't want to be going through this every year with us and going back and forth with 18-page responses and a legal argument. They don't want to be doing that. So it's also in their best interest to find us a long-term home and secure a 20 to 30-year lease for us.
And they want a long-term plan. They really want a long-term plan, and Prop 39 isn't the best way of doing that. And moving schools around is certainly not. We answer that.
Yeah.
How far will we go in contesting the district's offer?
We kind of hit on that.
What I would say is we will. A lot of people have, well, not a lot. A number of people have said, "Are you going to take legal actions?" Everyone I think in this room has probably been at some point in their life considering, should I do something? And you've got the little person on your shoulder, your friend or your advisor, like, hell yes, sue them, and the other one like, no, calm down. So what we know is we will take the legal avenue as long as it is productive. We also know that, our legal counsel specializes in charter law, does a lot around facilities and Prop 39. We know that they will tell us at some point it is not going to benefit anyone to pursue this any longer. And so we'll accept the district's offer. If we don't accept it, we opt out of the process altogether and we won't have a home. We will pursue our legal avenues to ensure our rights, to stay here, or to make sure that we have adequate space at Malcolm X. There will come a point where we're just going to have to release, it may come a point where we have to release that option, and just focusing on co-location here or at Malcolm X and making that successful. How does Malcolm X feel about our co-location? I really recommend you listen to the words of their staff members, of their parents, and of those who support them at that district meeting. It was inspiring, and it's not. I mean, I'm on the other end of it, right? We all are on the other end of it, feeling like, wow, that was really inspiring. It's hard to hear the impact that it would have. The one thing I would really want to make clear, and the small post that we had and heard may or may not have done this, which is that we have worked now almost a year and some with Malcolm X. I fundamentally know that this is about their program. This is about advocating for their community. It is not about being against us. And I think that's really important. And I actually feel really fortunate for that to be the case, because it could easily have turned a different way. So listen to their words, listen to how passionate they are, and listen to how not about us this is. This is about a decision that the district has taken, and they're wanting to understand, just like you, why was that decision taken? And for them to be able to have voice and articulate to the district the impact that will have.
So someone asked a question which kind of builds off of that is, how can we take space without hurting their community? I think that is going to come down to just really incredible collaboration and coming alongside them and really understanding what they need to make their program successful and continue to do the good work they've been doing. And for us to also be clear on what we need to make sure we have an excellent program. I think the short answer to that is it's going to be really tough. And I think that comes down to living out our values and being in as close of collaboration with them as possible. But the truth of the matter is, us being there will impact their school. And it will impact their community, and we will be taking space that they are currently using. And that's a hard reality for both communities to be wrapping their head around.
Sorry, how do we hear their perspective? Is that on record somewhere?
Yeah, it's, do we have that posted? I don't-
Yeah,
I think it's on Herd.
And Herd, yeah. And you can go to, I think it's an hour 40 in.
Into the school board meeting on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Great.
Should we be concerned about safety? Time flies. When the event and the tragedy at Parkland happened, we sent out a note. It was really focused on that day in and day out. We think about the safety of our kids. We think about how we create a safe and supportive learning environment so that while they're here, they can take risks. While they're here, they can be their best selves. While they're here, they can make mistakes. While they're here, they feel supported. They feel safe. There's going to be no difference as we go to Malcolm X. We will continue to think about that. What I would say is two issues came out of this when you talk about safety. One is around the neighborhood and crime. The other is around the environment. We spent last year and this year a significant amount of time just thinking through this. And what I want to say is very clearly, for Emily and I, the question is, do you believe that we can have a safe and supportive learning environment at Malcolm X? And the answer to you is absolutely, we can. Will it take a lot of planning? Absolutely. Did it take a lot of planning here? Absolutely. How do we know that, though? Why are we so confident in that fact? Because if you look at the environment and if you look at crime in the neighborhood, whether it was our first location in the Mission or whether it's being here in Potrero Hill, the fact is similar issues exist. And the information is out there. It's very publicly available, right? Whether it's about the environment or whether it's about crime, look at the statistics. It is really mixed. It's a very mixed picture, meaning like there isn't one obvious safe area. And whether you're looking at violent crime or whether you're looking at property crime, it is the fact of the matter is this city, right, has its issues. Every neighborhood has its issues, and we know based on that, whether it was in the Mission or whether it was here, we've been able to create an environment which is safe and supportive for our kids.
I honestly believe we had probably even more safety risks in our first 2 years because we had to walk to and from a park every single day. We had to cross busy streets. We had a whole classroom of kids. We were in public parks every single day. Just being able to be in a building and be on a playground and be here, I think has reduced the amount of risk that we face when we have to take the kids out of the building each day. That's
right. And so two things. One is that was the more general. I just want you to realize how Emily and I feel about this and our continuing commitment towards the safety of our community. A couple things. One, which is on the environment. Obviously, the shipyard, right, is controversial. And so last year we spent a lot of time looking at the shipyard. As we began to look at the shipyard, we also began to look at things like, that came up, other risks were actually more immediate around large construction projects that were happening in that neighborhood. And as you know, that neighborhood is, it's like the epicenter of development within San Francisco. And actually, if you look at just the east and south of the southeast and south of the city, it's like one large construction site. You'll notice down here we have a construction site half a block away, and up here another one half a block away. When we started to look at the shipyard, a couple things happened. One, which is we started.
Can I just clarify too? When we say we looked at it first, we had an incredible team of parents helping us on this that poured hours and hours into the research. One of whom is here, two of whom are here.
Three.
Three.
Four.
And are going to join.
They're all over.
If you're passionate about this topic and want to hear from some true experts, Ryan and I are not the experts, come to the safety breakout
In
group.
just 4 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, no.
So when we say we looked, we had people visiting the development site, talking to the EPA, talking to the city, talking to the district. I mean, we did a lot of thorough research to make sure we felt really confident to be able to say we felt like it was a safe community for our kids. And it was a different place last year because we had identified that the biggest risk last year was the immediate demolition of the housing project adjacent to Malcolm X. And they couldn't tell us exactly when that demolition was going to happen. As much as they said this summer, we anticipated that demolition could extend into the start of the school year, and the dust from that demolition did pose a risk to our school. That is no longer a risk because that demolition has happened. And then in terms of the shipyard is about a mile from Malcolm X. I think it's helpful to look at a map and just see the physical distance of where the shipyard is. And the biggest risk there is when the particles become airborne or become activated and you actually ingest them. So we don't anticipate that our children are going to be on the naval base eating dirt. And the distance itself, a mile, really means that the risk is highly insignificant.
So the things that we are, and honestly, I think every resident of San Francisco should be, and certainly residents of that neighborhood are concerned about, is the shipment of the soil, right? The cleanup of that site. And so the pathways out of those trucks, similar to the concern that neighborhood had around the shipment of contaminated soil, which is just half a block away, and the routes that those took. So again, very similar issues, and the heightened scrutiny around the shipyard is really important. Because the fact is, I'd much rather have, right, this kind of scrutiny around something like the shipyard than not, right? And so I believe, so when Emily and I looked at those two risk factors, last year we came to the consideration that the shipyard was an immediate risk. It was something we needed to be attentive to. That the demolition was, and that last part the demolition of those buildings has now passed. Around, I think we've done.
Yeah, if you want to, we're gonna get into small groups so we can have more questions around safety. And let's get to the last question, and then we'll get to our breakout groups. What impact will this have on our community? Which I think builds to somebody asked a question of could this impact enrollment if we go to Malcolm X?
I mean, honestly, the answer to that question is every family. We just talked about risk, right? Or we talked about safety. Safety often is a perception. They're a real risk, but there's also a perception of risk, right? A perception of being safe or unsafe. And Emily and I can tell you how confident we are around setting up a safe and supportive learning environment for our kids. We can't determine for you your own perception of the risks in this neighborhood, in that neighborhood, where we were previously in the mission. Everyone's going to have to make their own choice. The same choice in terms of like the decision around the commute and what that means for your family. So this question, how will it affect enrollment? It really depends on our current community and whether or not they make the decision, if we go to Malcolm X, to come with us. Of course, we love this community. Like we are new school, right? But that's really real when we say that, right? We are a group of founding members of a school that is an extraordinary place, and of course we want that to remain intact. Absolutely, and we will focus on the priorities we believe will have the biggest impact and the most positive impact on our community.
And that are most within our locus of control, like transportation.
That's right. So, yes, we do believe there are some families who will opt not to come with us to Malcolm X. We also know that we have 500 people on the wait list for kindergarten. We know we're going to fill up our kindergarten. We just do. And the question would be whether or not the level at which people opt not to come with us of our current families and our ability to backfill those spaces with new families. We have a really good reputation as a school, and we feel really proud about that, and we're really grateful for that to be the case. And we do believe that we will be able to re-enroll. So we don't believe that is a significant risk.
It's also a priority for us to have more low-income families, and we think we could very quickly further diversify our student body by being in the Bayview at Malcolm X. So here are the 4 breakout groups, and for those that are facilitating the groups, we're going to do one group since we use more time whole group here. So we've got a group focused on transportation, a group focused on collaboration and integration at Malcolm X, group focused on district relations and advocacy, and a group focused on safety. So we ask that you pick the group that you have the most energy around. And the purpose of getting into small groups is just to further drill down on questions people have. So we're going to surface questions, concerns. Some of them we might be able to answer in real time. If we can't answer them in the moment, we're going to document them so we can get back to the community with answers. And for some of the groups, it'll be action planning and brainstorming. What role can parents play? Somebody asked the question, which I think is a great question to lead us into the small groups on. But what can we do as parents in alignment with our school's values to make this a positive experience for everyone? Great question. Take that question with you into the small groups. We've got staff. How can we as parents work in alignment with our school's values to make either decision a positive experience? And so for the groups, We've got collaborating and integrating at Malcolm X here, which will probably be a lot of brainstorming and thinking about what can that look like and what can parents bring to the table. Transportation will be over there. District relations and advocacy here, and neighborhood and environmental safety will be back here. And then we're going to come back together. We'll share out at the end what the group's kind of big burning questions, takeaways, next steps. And we're going to have a note taker in each group so that people can have access to the notes from all the groups. So with that, let's break into groups. Yeah.